Hi guys, it's Jade Melody here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to episode number 2 of my squat series, taking your squats from sloppy to sensational. Today we're going to be diving into improving your flexibility for your squats. Last episode we talked about mobility, opening up the hips and the ankles, etc. If you did miss that video, make sure to go and watch it on my channel. But today we're going to jump into flexibility. I spoke about last time how mobility and flexibility can be very similar, but they are two very different things. So this one is going to be a follow along stretch routine. Having tight muscles can really affect how well your squats go, how much you can lift and how safe they are as well. So getting more flexibility is in the long run going to get you more mobility and better squats as well. So this one's going to be a follow along, so you can literally just grab your mat, jump in, and we're going to get straight into this flexibility routine for your squats. Okay, so we are starting this one off with the classic pigeon stretch, which you can either get into in the way I just did with a bit of like a lunge and then lean forwards, or if you struggle to get into it, then I would drop into two 90-degree angles with your legs, twist your hips, and then start to just relax there and slowly shuffle the back leg straight if you're able to. But just take your time if you need to get into it that way, or you can get into it the way that I showed it in the beginning. So you're trying to make sure that your front knee is directly in line with your front hip, so a straight line from your hip straight forwards into your knee, and trying to slowly get lower and lower with your chest down across your front leg. Now we're trying to keep the back leg really straight here so that we can stretch the front glute, but also the back hip flexor and quad at the same time. So try and stretch both of these at the same time. You should feel stretching that front glute and that back hip flexor. Two muscles that really do need to be flexible for a really good squat here. And then we're going to swap onto the other leg. So exactly the same, you can either get into it how I get into it, or go into those two 90 degrees and shuffle the back leg as straight as you can. You can keep your chest quite upright if you are struggling to lean it forwards. That's absolutely fine, there's no worries with that. You'll still get a really good glute stretch and still a good hip flexor stretch. Continue to always think about twisting your hips down towards the floor, thinking about pushing that back hip down into the ground to make sure we're getting a stretch across that back hip flexor. We are then going to be going into a upright lunge position, stretching out our back hip flexor. Again, tight hip flexors and quads don't make for good squats. We're going to go into a lunge, both hands if you can down on the floor, and just push that hip flexor down into the ground. Now here you're trying to get slowly as low as you can, so if you can go down onto your elbows, go for it. If you can't, just stay upright and just find whatever is comfortable. You can also come more upright if you want, placing both your hands on your front leg, and we are thinking about pushing that back hip flexor down into the ground. So find a position that feels comfy for you. Doesn't really matter how low you get, but the lower the better over time on this one. Still think about pushing that back hip flexor down into the ground, almost squeezing your glutes to really switch on this movement and to really extend through those hip flexors as much as you physically can. Now to add in a bit of quad movement, we're going to twist round, and with the same arm as the leg that's in front, we're going to grab the back leg and grab the back foot preferably. If you can only reach the ankle, that's fine. If you can reach the foot, then that's great. Try and catch it, pull that heel towards your bum, and still trying to think about pushing that hip flexor down. If your hips slightly rotate to one side, that's okay. We're just trying to get that hip flexor down and now getting that heel as close to your bum as possible. Trying to really pull in close and keep pushing that hip flexor down, 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 down into the floor as much as you can. Should feel a stretch across your front hip flexor and all the way down into your quad. Now if you can't do this one, just keep trying to catch that foot. If you can't do that one, it might show that your quads are quite tight, and in which case that is going to limit you quite a lot in some of your mobility and flexibility. So we're going to swap on the other side. Again, we are going to start in a kneeling position, so just back leg out straight, front leg in a bent 90 degree, and just starting to push that back hip flexor down into the floor here. Again, just focusing on using your body weight to push your hip flexor down as you go. If you do have really tight hip flexors, you're going to find you get a lot of issues around your hips, and you can also have hip issues into other joints as well, like your knees. So making sure that these hip flexors and these quads are staying flexible is really important. The quads as well, specifically for your knees. If you have really tight quads, you'll end up probably feeling a lot of tension in your IT band, which is band that goes down the side of your thigh, but also a lot of tension in your knees as well, where they're going to take all that tightness from the quad, and it's very difficult to squat when you've got dodgy knees, so you need to keep up that quad flexibility. So again, switching, we are reaching around, trying to catch that back foot. We're trying to pull the foot into the bum, keep pushing the hips down, and keep pulling that foot as close as you possibly can to your bum, pushing the hips down. You might find one is tighter or easier than the other. That's absolutely normal and completely fine, but just keep trying to push both to a similar level and really try to sink into this stretch here. Now these ones are the ones you want to do after your squats or just on a regular basis to improve your flexibility. We are then going to do a bit of a hamstring one. So hamstrings, again, super important to be flexible here. So simple one, we're going to kneel down, we're going to glue your chest to your thigh and then slowly start pushing your bum backwards and slowly pushing your chest further down. Now the aim is to keep the front leg slightly bent the whole time. I'm actually not trying to fully straighten my front leg. I'm trying to keep my chest down on my thigh and my toes popped up and my leg a little bent. I'm also not trying to sit my back bum cheek onto my back heel. There is a stretch that's like that, but that's not the stretch we're doing. So we're trying to not push our bum down onto the heel. We are mainly focusing on keeping that chest down and pushing the hip backwards. I'm trying to go for a bit of a hip hinge as opposed to sitting your bum down on your heels. So onto the other side, again, same. Going for a big kneeling position, so very wide kneeling position. Chest goes down to the thigh, and then we are going to push those hips back, making sure those toes are pulled up off the floor. And we're going for a bit of an extension in the front leg, but still relatively trying to keep that knee a little bit soft in the front. Again, notice that my back leg is still at a 90-degree bend. I don't bend my back leg any more than 90 degree. I want my bum to stay away from my back heel, always space between my bum and my back heel. We're moving into now another stretch, which is going to be really important for your adductors. Your adductors are the muscles which sit on the inside of your thighs. If you have really tight adductors, you're going to find that when you squat, your knees drive in really quickly. You'll have a lot of knee caving. So we are going to sit in this frog position. That's going to be knees on the floor, chest is going to be down and forwards, and we are trying to have our knees as far apart as possible here. Now we're going to sit in just both legs, and then one leg's going to extend. Still, the other leg is bent, one leg is straight. If you want to kind of rock backwards and forwards here, you can, or just stay still. And then going to swap and do the exact same on the other leg. So one leg's going to go straight first, then we'll bring both knees back in, and then we'll make the other one straight. We're trying to keep our bum off the floor and over the top of our knees here. And again, you can rock if you need to, or you can just stay still. We're looking to push those hips as close to the floor as we possibly can. Now, if you want to, you can do an extension of both legs, but that one is kind of pushing into that middle split and starts to get a lot more spicy when you're both legs straight. So feel free, you can stay in that bent knee position, but if you want to, go to both legs straight and start trying to push your bum and hips down to the floor, then go for it. But feel free, if you want to stay with bent legs, then stay with them. If you can straighten out those legs and try and hold in that position, then absolutely go for it. And again, trying to keep your toes in line with your bum, everything stacked over the top. Now, if you are really struggling with that one, you can also do this variation where we just have both of our legs out and we're hanging down. I would do this one anyways, even if you do find the other one easy, but we're just going to go for legs in a big V shape and trying to reach our hands through our legs. Now, if you're not too flexible in this position, you might only be able to try and slowly reach your hands to the floor beneath you, and that's fine. You can either just try and reach your hands down to the floor, or if you're feeling pretty flexible in this position, it's feeling good, you can start trying to reach your hands through your legs. And the wider your legs are here, the bit more challenge this one's going to get. So just go for what feels comfortable for you and try and use the weight of your head and your torso to pull you down and really stretch through those adductors again. We're also going to make sure we stretch the calves. Now, to do this, we're going to have a little elevation, so either a step or plates, and your toes are going to elevate on the step or plates, and your heels are going to drop down to the floor. The higher the step or elevation, the harder this gets. And then your other foot is going to step around and in front of you. That is going to stretch that back calf. Now, calf flexibility is actually really important and super overlooked as well. If we have very tight calves, you'll find that your ankle mobility can also get hindered. It's very difficult to get low in a squat when your ankle mobility is hindered, and when those calves are really tight, it can just feel difficult for your ankles to glide nicely. And if you do have really tight calves, you might find that your Achilles gets really tight too, or it can get tender, and having a really tight Achilles just doesn't feel comfortable when you're trying to squat. So that's a reason for a bit of calf flexibility. So again, toes elevated, heel down, and then stepping the other leg round and in front. down and leaning forwards to allow for a big calf stretch. And over time, just try and slightly elevate the step that your toes are on as you go through, just to increase the difficulty over time. We are then going to continue with those quads. So this one is nice and simple one, standing up, and we're going to go and just catch our foot behind us. Now, if you struggle to do the hip flexor one, which was on the floor earlier, then it's best to start with this one and kind of warm up with this one until you get to the other one. But if you find the other one pretty easy, then you could maybe skip this one or still do it anyways if you feel like you still feel the stretch. So it's the same thing. We're pulling the heel up to our bum, trying to keep our knees in the same line and trying to pull that heel into your bum, feeling a stretch into your quad. If you want to get a little bit more of a stretch, you can squeeze your glutes and you can really try and bring that foot as close as you can. So again, same on both sides. We're pulling that foot up. Feel free to hold on to something here. There's no need to use your balance, so feel free to hold on to the wall as you're doing this one and trying to keep that knee really still. So try not to cheat this movement by letting your knee go too far behind you. Try and keep the knees in line with each other as you pull that leg up. So you can keep practicing this one until it feels easier, and then you can kind of evolve it down to the floor. Now, if both of the hip flexor and quad ones we've done so far feel pretty okay, pretty manageable, then you can do this one. If the other two hip flexor and quad ones feel really hard, you're probably not quite ready for this one yet, but you can give it a go. So we're going to go into a kneeling position with our back knee super close to a wall, and our foot is going to be up against the wall as well. Now the aim is to be slowly come up to an upright position as shown here. Now I kind of move quite quickly into that position purely because I do this stretch very often and I'm quite used to it, but if you haven't done it before or you don't do it very often, you might just want to take it really slow because this one can be quite intense. Make sure you do have a mat or something underneath your knee unless you're doing this on carpet, because it can be a bit much on that knee on the floor. Now if you do want to add a bit more of a stretch once you're in this position, we're going to lift up the same arm as leg behind us and tilt over to the side. This is going to stretch very small muscles kind of down deep within where your hip is, the psoas, big stretch down there. The whole time on this one, you're trying to push your bum back towards the wall, your upper back also trying to head towards the wall. So everything pushing backwards as far as you can. We're going to be swapping onto the other leg. So again, it's the exact same, trying to shuffle in that kneeling position to get that back knee as close to the wall as possible and take it as slow as you need. Don't feel like you need to move as quick as me. And then push your bum back towards the wall and also trying to push your upper back towards the wall as well. Again, big quad and hip flexor stretch this one. Again, really important for that knee health, those hip health, and etc. So pushing back all the way towards that wall. Then if you want to get that deep stretch, same arm as leg that's back goes into the sky and we tip towards the side of the leg that's in front. So just tipping over to the side. If you find that tip really intense, then you probably want to look at some other stretches for your psoas, which is that deep internal muscle. But if you find it pretty okay, then that's really good. And you can just hang out in this position, just trying to reach over or getting stretches all the way through those small hip muscles. And that is the end of our flexibility routine for your squats. This one is a great routine to do after you've squatted or after any other kind of leg day or whenever you want to, and over time you'll improve your flexibility and improve your squats too. If you did like this video, make sure to subscribe because we've got plenty more episodes of the Sloppy to Sensational squat series coming up, and you don't want to miss any of them because they are going to make your squats absolutely sensational. For now, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!